Hey everybody, welcome back to Seer&Sundry. I'm December, and today I'm doing the 77 questions tag. This tag was, I think, originally posted by Lady Grave Dancer, and I will link below to her Facebook page, which lists all 77 questions. And, of course, her video. This apparently was thought up because there's a lot of witchy tags going around, and she and another group of witches were like, let's do one big tag that answers, like, everybody's questions. And she worded them as best she could. Some of them are her interpretation of what the original question was. So if you have a question that is not part of this list or is worded differently and you would like some clarification on my answer, please feel free to ask below. I don't mind doing maybe a round 2 of this video with like clarifications. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because this is going to be a long video. And if I take a break to drink some of my tea, I hope you'll forgive me because 77 questions, guys. And I keep looking over because I have my questions on my computer. Alright, first question. And apparently they're not in any order of like importance or relativeness to the following questions, so they're kind of random. The first one is, do you use runes as a written language? No. I have in the past. I have tried to write pages in my Book of Shadows with runes, and it just was too confusing. I prefer, if I'm going to use anything other than English or Latin, because I do use a lot of Latin, then I'll use sigils, which are different than runes. The only time I've used runes at all really is in divination, but even then I'm not as skilled in runes as I am in other forms of divination. So, do you feel you have natural gifts, such as premonitions, hearing spirits, etc.? And if so, do you think this is what led you to this path? This is really hard. I believe that we all have gifts, all humans at all. I've had experiences where I've had dreams that have happened, and I have had experiences where I've seen spirits and spoken to them, and they've spoken to me. But they became more frequent after I started studying witchcraft. So I'm not sure if they are what led me to the path. I do think that those people who are more open to experiences and gifts like this are more likely to be open-minded to other spiritual paths that deal with this sort of thing, like witchcraft. Number 3 is, what deity do you work with, if any, and why? I work with many deities. So I don't have like a one matron and one patron deity like many witches do. I work with several. I guess you could say I have my own personal pantheon. And in that list includes Ganesh, Hermes, St. Agabus, Hecate. Currently I'm doing a lot of work with the Empress, Tarot, Energy, and Juno. And I feel like I'm forgetting quite a bit of them. But those are the main ones that I've been working with as of late. Have you always worked with the same deity? No. I have, well, of course, like I said, I don't work with just one deity anyways. But I've worked with many deities over the years, including Herne, Diana, Persephone. Gosh, a lot, guys. So, and that's not even counting spirits like fae and guides. So, do you use any personal items in your practice? And they mean specifically like, what's it called? personal effects like blood, tears, footprints, stuff like that. And yes, I do incorporate some hoodoo into my work, and that is a big part of hoodoo. And I have no issue with using bodily anything, really. I mean, I'm not like, how do I word that without sounding like crazy? But no, I have used blood in my magic. I have used tears in my magic. I have used what else have I used? I've used hair. So I don't have an issue with it if what I'm doing I feel calls for it. Do you do past life readings and have ever had one done? Who were you and how did you die? Yes, I've had past life regressions. Damon does past life regression guided meditations with people he feels comfortable doing them with. And I regressed. I've seen 3 past lives. No, 4 past lives. My most recent one I won't talk about. But further back, I've lived in China. I was specifically a more southern region of China, closer to I can't remember the name, but anyway, it's a southern region of China. And I was the apprentice to a matchmaker. Before that, I was, what's the word? I was fighting Romans, and I lived in a Celtic nation. And I don't know full details of that one. I've just seen it in glimpses and seen what I've looked like in glimpses, but that's it. So, but I won't talk about the more recent ones. As far as do I do them myself? No. Damon is much more skilled at that, and so when people have come to us and asked us about past life regression and past life readings, I usually let him handle that sort of thing. What is your favorite magical tool? I guess I would say myself, but if you want an actual like item, it'd be my tarot deck, because I'm a professional tarot reader. So it'd definitely be a tarot deck. As far as a favorite tarot deck, I can't choose right now, guys. I'm in love with too many right now. What is a song or type of music that gets you into a witchy mood? This varies depending on my mood and the kind of witchcraft I'm doing. I've used shamanic drumming. We use singing bowls. We use kind of like the world music, like or folk music, like Dom the Bard. I really like Dom the Bard. So we've used that. I've also been known to use techno, drum and bass, and electronic music. A lot of that has to do with the bass, though. Number 9 is, where is the most magical place you have ever been? That one's a little bit of a weird question for me, because I believe just as all people are magical, I believe all places are magical. So, but I've not, like, I guess if I had to choose a actual location, it'd be New Orleans. Just the entire city is just filled with just, I don't know. I'm in love with New Orleans, though, guys. I could go on and on all day about it. I've not done a pilgrimage anywhere else, though. I have plans to do so. I have plans to do a pilgrimage to Sedona, and also to Mount Shasta, and to Stonehenge eventually. These are all eventuals. So maybe this question, my answer to this question will change as I have more life experiences. Number 10, what animal is your familiar, if any? I do not have a familiar. I've had animals that I have worked with magically, specifically 2 different cats, who I think had possibilities to be familiars, but I'm not really sure if it'd be a familiar or that they were just magical in and of themselves and worked with me. But that, I don't currently have anything like that. If you have a familiar, did you choose them or did they choose you? Every pet that's come into our lives, I feel, chose us. So I don't really know if that answered the familiar question, because like I said, I didn't really have one. Damon has had a familiar, and I can go ahead and say that that cat chose him. So there you go. Number 12, what in the craft are you best at? Divination, for sure, specifically with the tarot. Yeah, I practice many forms of divination, and it's just my favorite part about being a witch. Number 15. Oh, no, number 13. Sorry, guys. What in the craft would you say you are weaker at? When I first read this question, I was like, oh man, I don't know. I watched Tequila's video, and she said working with other witches, and I would have to agree. I also have that issue. It's the reason why I'm solitary. So that, and then I guess keeping to a set schedule of like Sabbath worship type of thing, I don't do well with that. I do much better with astrological dates and with seasons than I do, here's a Sabbath. What is your favorite part of your craft? Divination, for sure. What was the first purchased tool you ever got? Candles. I remember the first candle I got with the intention of using it in witchcraft, and I was in middle school. And we went on a field trip to a folk fair or folk festival. And I bought a rectangular candle in green and used it for my first spell that used tools. So that was really exciting. What was your first homemade tool for your practice? My Book of Shadows. And then after that, it was, I guess, a wand. What are your feelings on raising kids in the craft? I'm being asked this so much lately because I'm pregnant. And people in my family have asked this kind of warily because they are not witches. And then friends of mine have asked me this because they are witches and they're just curious. I don't plan on so much teaching him the craft as much as continuing practicing what I do, and I'm going to be very open about it. Especially since it's my business. Seer&Sundry is based entirely on magic and living a spiritual life, so he's going to be exposed to not only my practice, but Damon's practice, clients, stuff like that, and he's going to see how that works. But he will also be exposed to Christianity and Buddhism and Hinduism and Judaism and all these other things because we have friends that are that. So when he gets older and if he decides he would like to follow my path or Damon's path, then we will definitely take the steps to encourage him on that, and just as we would encourage him on if he chose another path. So 18. If you were a goddess or god, who would you be? I guess this. How do you answer this without sounding completely conceited? I guess Persephone, because of my history. I left my mom and my whole way of life when I decided to be with Damon, who was considered like the bad boy at the time. But now are we are more accepted, and our marriage is more accepted by my family and everybody. So 8 years later, and but yeah, I guess Persephone. Plus, I really like deities that do the go between the two worlds, the underworld or the other world and our world. And she also is one that's connected with Hecate, who I've worked with, and she's also connected with herbs through her mother Demeter. So I guess Persephone. Do you use astrology in your practice, and in what ways? Yes, and I use it in journaling, I use it in tarot reading, I use it in deciding when would be a good time to do a spell or ritual. I use it in making certain items. So yeah. If any ways could you practice dark magic and still respect the beliefs of Wicca? I'm not a Wiccan, so this doesn't really pertain to me, and I don't follow the read. So I'm gonna pass on this question. Do you have any witches in your family? Besides Damon and I, I'm giggling a little inside because we have people in our family who I feel practice witchcraft, but it would really offend them to say that or call them witches. So I guess no. What item can you not witch without? I don't necessarily need an item, not even for divination, but if I had to choose an item, it'd be my tarot deck. Or my journal. My journal would be a big item too. What's your favorite Sabbath or time of the year ritual? Fall, autumn, Samhain. I think that's going to be a really common answer among a lot of witches. Have you ever had YouTube burnout? Yes. What is your fave witchy shop, and do they have an online store? Don't really have a fave witchy shop. As far as a favorite shop online, it'd be probably Mountain Rose Herbs, but they're not really a witchy shop. Lost my place. Oh, here we go. Number 26. When buying witchy items, do they choose you or do you choose them? Both. I find I choose the item whenever I have like herbs in mind and the like. But as far as like ritual tools, they more choose me. How do you organize your herbs and ingredients? I don't. I have a whole cabinet that is like just crammed with herbs and it's just sad. And I've really got to get that shit in order, guys, but I just haven't. Do you have interest in other deities that you don't work with? If so, which ones? I guess I would say I have an interest in all deities. But I've worked with so many that I don't know. But yeah, I have an interest in all of them. I wouldn't mind learning about any of them. Do you have a favorite time of the day to do spell work, and if so, why? I would say evening or night. Just because everything's quiet then. I'm not getting phone calls. We're not expected to be anywhere. This is bound to change a little after my son is born. So we will see. Are you solitary or do you work with a coven? I'm solitary. You could also say I do family tradition because I also do witchcraft with my husband. So I don't even know what you would call that, but I'm not in a particular coven now. If you could pick a certain witchcraft tradition that fits your practice most, what would it be? And the examples that were given were Druid, Celtic, Wicca, etc. If I had to choose one tradition to stick with, probably Hellenic Reconstructionism. I really like that one. What was the most creative spell you have ever done, and what did you use? I don't know. I don't want to talk about a lot of my spell work. I guess some of my money spells have been pretty creative, just because of the kind of tools I've used. Like, here, just let me grab that. Here's the basis of one of my money spells, guys. Isn't this the cutest little piggy bank ever? This had candy in it, those jelly candies. And this is where our change goes, is in his belly. And all around, oh, his name is Momo the Money Monkey. And all around him is these little monkeys. Can you see? Yeah. So this is not to listen to doubts. And this is to relax. So yeah, they all have a reason. But it's just like the most random thing, because it's not like what you would consider a normal spell. Like, it's not herbs, it's not crystals, it's monkeys. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's probably my most creative one though. Um, what do you prefer for divination and why? Tarot. I've been reading tarot professionally since 2009 and I love it. As far as why, I guess the images, they speak to me more. And when I'm reading for others, it's easier to read with the cards than to read with my scrying stone or my pendulum. What are some ways you keep yourself grounded? Grounding. Earthing, in particular, going out and outside and putting my feet on the bare ground, or bare feet on the ground. That is my favorite way of grounding. I also really enjoy a salt and crystal bath. As far as a really quick way to ground yourself, if you are feeling really out of it or you really need to ground yourself like right now, put a little bit of salt on your tongue, on the very tip of your tongue. And that helps. Have you ever had a spell go horribly wrong? Yes. It didn't ask for what happened. I'm not going to tell you. What are your opinions on initiation rituals? I don't have anything against them. I know that in certain traditions it's mandatory, and I'm perfectly okay with that, but I'm not part of those traditions. So, have you ever had full contact with your deity? If so, what happened? Like I said, I work with multiple deities. But yes, I've been in the presence of deities before. I've been in the presence of the All, which I think all deities come from. I've been in the presence of Ganesh, which is one of the most vivid experiences I've had. He is very large. I did a meditation with him the first time I did a, what's it called? I feel like I'm going to pronounce it wrong. But anyway, I had just finished my 108 mantras to Ganesh over 108 days. So every day within 108 days, you say 108 mantras. And I was saying it to remove obstacles for a goal of mine. And it worked. And it worked really strongly. So I was doing a ritual and meditation to thank him. And there is a term for that, and I'm just, like I said, I'm not going to say because I feel like I'm going to like completely slaughter this word. But when I was doing my meditation, I was sitting before Ganesh in lotus position, and he was just huge. Like I could have easily sat on the nail of his smallest toe and had plenty of room for other people. He was just so big, and I was just so just in awe of him. And when this helped me later on, especially like right now in my pregnancy, where I feel like this is so much bigger than me, so I chose Ganesh to help me through it. What about me is unwitchy? This is really hard to answer because I think that every aspect of your life can be magical. I don't know. I really don't know, guys. Maybe the fact that I use like monkeys and kawaii stuff in my magic. Maybe some people would find that unwitchy. I don't know. For the dating witch, how do you tell a new love interest that you are a witch? I don't personally recommend that if you are a witch that practices and this is something that's important to you, I don't really personally recommend dating outside of your beliefs. It creates the people I know that are married or date outside of their beliefs have a lot more problems I've seen. So it's just not my recommendation. So I don't really know if that helped whoever was asking about that, but I would definitely stick with people who are also participants in witchcraft or a type of pagan. Number 40. Who is a past witch that has inspired you, whether they're famous or not? The writing of that question was really wonky, so sorry. As far as like witchy authors that inspire me, Reverend Dawn of the Karelian tradition is really inspiring, and his mother and grandmother. Patricia Telesco is one of my all-time favorite authors. As far as somebody I've actually spoken to and had contact with, Sherry Cooper, who was my mentor when I was studying Wicca. My darling best friend Busy, because she always keeps me inspired and is my, if I need a pick-me-up or some inspiration or just some aid, she's kind of my sister and cheerleader in that aspect. Lee Harrington, he's a really awesome guy and writer, and his work is great, but he's also just a really sweet person, and he's encouraged me a lot in my writing. I don't really know if that answered the question. Sorry. How do you handle rejection from a fellow witch that refuses to do a reading or spell for you? Well, the only witches I would ask to either help me with a spell or do a reading for me are ones that I have a relationship with already, like we're friends or we already have a working relationship. And so the only time I foresee them saying, no, that I won't do this for you or with you is, if they've got something going on or if they'd have a reason. So I would just be understanding and go on. If I have to have somebody else do it, then I will just go on to the next person on my list. I won't hold it against them or anything. Do you think it is necessary to cast a circle when you do spell work or any magical work? Nope. 43. If Steven Spielberg called and wanted to make a movie of your life, who would you want to play as you? this is another thing that's just gonna make me sound super conceited, but I guess if I could have anybody play me in a movie, it would be either Ellen Page or Emma Watson. What is some advice that was given to you that you pass along because it made an impact on your path? One of the things I pass on all the time lately is it's a quote by Sark, who's not technically a witch, but I consider her kind of witchy. But she said, "Don't worry about being perfect. Instead, be splendidly imperfect." And it helped me do so much in my life because I was holding back in my business, I was holding back in my writing, I was holding back in everything because I wanted it to be perfect before I released it to the world, and things just don't work that way. Sorry, I lost my place again. Number 45. What is some advice you would give someone who has not found their deity? One, you don't, unless you are following, let me preface this, unless you are following a very specific tradition of witchcraft that says you must have a matron and patron deity, which some traditions say you do. If you do follow that tradition, I would talk to your mentor or those within your tradition or coven and see what they did. Many of them pretty much already choose those for you, so you don't really have that issue. However, if, like, say, you're solitary or your tradition lets you pretty much choose whoever, I would do a meditation and just open yourself up and ask. This can take several days. Most of the deities I work with came into my life by chance. Ganesh came into my life because a friend recommended him. I had a dream about Hecate. Juno just kept coming up in my reading. And, just most of them just came into my life. So I guess I'm not the best person to ask about this, but I would definitely open yourself up, maybe do a divination of sorts, either through bibliomancy or tarot reading or whatever. Tarot reading can really help you, especially if you only use the major arcana and the court cards. You can at least see the kind of deity that it recommends that you work with. Also, try not to force yourself too much. And if you are, say, you like a certain deity, but you're expecting like this huge epiphany of I choose you, maybe be a little bit more relaxed with yourself and just work with that deity. It's, there's no one right way to do this, like I said, unless you're in a tradition and they have certain rules and the like. Number 46, where do you buy your herbs? I wildcraft a lot of my herbs. I grow a lot of my herbs. I buy them at local farmers markets. I get them from friends who also grow herbs. And as far as a local shop that if I needed something and needed it right away and I couldn't get it from whoever, Natural Pantry. And then if I had to order something online, it'd be Mountain Rose Herbs. How did you feel casting your first circle? Did you feel silly, scared? Did you stumble, etc.? It felt perfectly natural. My first circle was by myself. Now, my first circle with a group, I was leading it, so I was very serious. And I've always, especially when I was younger, not always, but when I was younger and practicing, I was very, very serious and I wanted to be taken very seriously. So I took myself way too seriously. And so that definitely affected my moods and how I acted within ritual. What was your first successful spell? My first spells were mostly meditations and visualizations, so a lot of people don't count those. I did a protection spell to help me sleep because I was having a lot of nightmares. And then I had My first spell that involved other people was an invisibility spell, which was more of a don't notice us spell. And that was just an experiment. And it worked. What was your general practice, or what is your general practice for meditation? I do a few different practices. I do dancing meditations. I do meditations where I clear my mind, and that one I follow Deepak Chopra's recommendation in one of his books. I'm sorry, guys, I can't remember which one, where he recommends that you clear your mind by visualizing a still pond, and that any thoughts that come into your head are ripples in the pond, and your goal is to make that pond as still and clear as glass. So I do that one a lot, especially when I'm getting ready to manifest something. Are you a day walker or a night comer? I'm assuming that this is asking whether you're a morning person or a night owl. If that's the case, then I'm a night owl. I don't know if I answered that right. How and when did you know you wanted to be on this path? Wow. I started looking into witchcraft at a very young age. I went back and forth a lot because it wasn't accepted within my family and a lot of my friends at the time. But I knew for sure I wanted to stay within this path after I turned 18 or 19. I had gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth because of guilt. And I finally just released myself of it, and that's when I knew. What type of pagan are you? And the examples were Wiccan, eclectic, hedge witch, etc. I just call myself a witch. I guess you would say I'm eclectic. As far as my faith or my religion, I call myself a co-creationist, which just means that I do believe that there is a creator. I believe that he or she created all of us. I don't believe that the creator has a specific gender, and that within us all is part of that creator, and we create our own realities and hand in hand with the creator. So there's a lot of use of the word creator in that. What candle color do you use most? White. And that's just because my working candles are usually white or red, and I use a lot of those. The white candles within the glass jars, I use those a lot with my tarot reading and my energy work and all that. So, what area would you like to see your craft grow in? Motherhood. I'm pregnant, and I think motherhood is a huge spiritual transition, and I know that it's going to affect every area of my life, and I definitely am kind of looking forward to seeing how it affects my magical practice. So, what is your preference, to buy or make your tools? Make. What fictional witch books? Oh, what fictional witch in book or screen, movie, I guess, inspired you the most? Man, that one's hard because I grew up with a lot of like major witchy movies like The Craft and Hocus Pocus and Teen Witch and Legend of the Keepers. Oh my gosh, guys, I don't know. I guess the Sweet books by Kate Tiernan. Morgan in those books, because it was the first time Wicca was ever really brought up in conjunction with witchcraft in a book that I had read that was fiction. So I guess that one. Lost my place again, guys. I'm sorry. Was your first spell... I'm guessing this question is meant to say, when you did your first spell, were you alone or in a coven? It's number 57 on the list. So, I was alone. Number 58, what is your favorite candle or incense scent for magical purposes? Lavender. I just use it for it has a lot of different purposes between meditation, psychism, and love. So I use it for a lot of things. Where is your favorite place to go to reconnect with nature? My backyard. When I lived in the city, it was to the park. And when we left town and went for hikes. Do you believe in fantasy creatures such as unicorns, gnomes, elves, fairies, etc.? Yep. Do you believe in ghosts or spirits? Yep. Yeah. So, what, if any, legal herb do you use for moods? A bunch. Lavender, chamomile, St. John's wort, valerian. All of those will have effects on moods. Right now, I'm just using lavender and chamomile, though. What is the most recent spell or ritual you have done? And it asks for detail. I guess money spells, since I've been doing a lot of business work lately, and I don't know if y'all heard that, but there is a crow, like, right at the window right here, and it's, like, squawking at me. Anyway, I've been doing a lot of business stuff lately, and so I keep my money mojo bag fed, and my altar currently does not have a money spell on it. My altar currently has it has a money candle on it, but it has a red candle for protection because we had some forest fires recently, and still Alaska is like burning down, guys. And that candle, along with some other stuff on that altar, is to protect my area. And there's a lot of witches in Alaska who are working on that. As far as details, like, I mostly do candle magic, guys, and crystal magic, so when it comes to an actual physical spell, and then I incorporate tarot and all of it. Number 64, would you ever teach the craft? Yeah, I guess. I don't know that I would teach like a full-on mentorship of a witch, but I would teach aspects of it, like how to do crystal work or how to do herbal work or something like that. And then, of course, like I said, if Caleb grows up and decides to follow our path or my path or Damon's path, which, by the way, are different, then yeah, I'd teach him what I knew. Lost my place again, guys. Oh, do you have a happy place you go to during meditation? I do have a sanctuary, an astral sanctuary that I go to when I meditate sometimes. What is your favorite witchy book? I have two favorites, and if you watched my 13 Witchy Things tag, you'll see them in that, but they are Solitary Witch, Silver Ravenwolf, and I'm going to drop it. Okay. Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells by Judica Isles. So those two are my favorite books. We are almost done, guys. Do you have a ritual to get ready before a ritual or spell? Do you have a ritual to get ready before a ritual or spell, and what is it? I usually try and cleanse myself and my space, but I do different things to do that, and then I try and center and ground myself beforehand. Do you always use your own spells, or do you tweak others? I do both. I'll write my own, or I will tweak something that I've either read or seen. Do you prefer spells or rituals inside or outside? I like both. It depends on what I'm doing. If you are coming from a Christian background, did you find the transition hard with family and the whole going to hell thing? And basically leaving all you've been told was right. Yeah, I did have a hard time. Like I said, I went back and forth all through my teenage years on whether or not this is the right thing. And a lot of it also, I had some conflict with my family. But we now accept each other and have compassion for each other and a lot more understanding, and I think that comes with maturity. What are your totem animals? The only totem animal I have is a dragon. However, I have worked with other animals, including frogs, ravens, bees, spiders. So I've worked with other animals, but I only have a dragon totem. What are some things you reuse after a spell or ritual work? The only things I reuse are my tools, like crystals or my ritual tools or anything like that. As far as wax or incense, I usually dispose of. I have in the past used ashes from something I burned during a ritual, but that was like a one-time thing, and that was because carrying on with the spell called for that, so I don't really know if it counts. Who helped you most when starting on your path? My friends. One in particular is my best friend, Busy. She helped me a lot. And then Damon, who gave me the ability to be myself without worrying about what other people thought of me. Do you know any good witchy phone apps? No, sorry guys. I mean, I have a smartphone, but I'm completely illiterate when it comes to it and use it just for talking, text, and pictures. Like, I suck with this whole technology thing. I guess if I would recommend any, it'd be a good tarot app and a good moon phase app, but I don't have any like specific ones to recommend. What's your favorite magical study? Divination. Outside of the YouTube and Facebook community, do you have a lot of witchy friends in the physical world? I don't know about a lot, but the people I consider my best friends are witches. And there's only a couple of those. So, do you, and then the last question, this is number 77, is do you feel that the deities we work with are a force from one higher power and that all beliefs and religions are from the same one God or place? Yes. I believe that there is an all-encompassing creator energy and that the deities we work with are just facets of that creator energy. So yeah. So that was the 77 question tag, and oh my gosh, it took me almost an hour. Like I said, if you have any other questions or would like some clarification or would like to talk about some of the stuff I talk about in this video, please feel free to comment below. Also, feel free to comment your video of answering all of these questions. And thank you, Tequila, Lady Grave Dancer, for putting this together for us. It was definitely interesting. So thank you all for watching. Blessings.